You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
To everybody out there, you have made it back to the Making Data Simple podcast. I'm sure you already know this, but if you're here, you could be self-characterized as incredibly smart since you're here. And, smart, good-looking people arrive here, so no pressure in the future. And speaking of, I've not seen your picture, Scott, but speaking of smart and good-looking people, I've got Scott Hebner today, who's the vice president and CMO of IBM Data and AI. I'll give a quick little lead in, and then as always, I'm going to turn it over to Scott to really give us the real goods here. But Scott currently leads a global marketing and digital channel organization. And this includes, and again, if I get this wrong, you'll have the chance to correct everything I say that's misrepresented. But hybrid data management, data ops and governance, data science and AI. He's leading initiatives like multi-cloud, Watson Anywhere, which we probably need to talk about, our journey to AI, the AI ladder methodology. I'll stop there. Welcome, Scott. I appreciate you taking the time today to talk to our listeners.
Al, thank you very much. And yeah, it's great to be on a podcast because I look 40 and feel 40. So how's that? No, I think you had the intro right. As you can imagine, IBM has a dozen or so business units, one of which is data and AI, and that's what I lead marketing for. So it's our full array of data management, data ops, AI development, data science, our Watson application suite. It's the full range of the products that we sell around the space of data and AI.
So is it data or data? That's what I want to know. That's the first question.
People tell me that all the time, that if I'm going to have this job, I got to pronounce it right, but it's data, isn't it? No?
I don't know. Your marketing. Maybe I need to switch. It does sound a little bit better, maybe, now that I'm thinking about it. Data. It's got a little bit of ring to it.
In New York, I think it's data or data. Right. I'll say data. Right. I'll mix it up. We'll keep everyone on their toes.
Fantastic. Well, here's what I also know. If your looks are 40, then you must have started incredibly young, because I think you celebrated your 30th anniversary, didn't you?
I did. But
so you started when you were like 8, 10, somewhere around there?
Yeah, well, okay, you got me on that one. But truth of the matter is I got into IBM right after college. Mm-hmm. So if you do the math, okay, maybe I'm a little bit more than 50. But you don't know that because it's a podcast. So
yeah, that's fine. Nobody knows. You're 40 as far as we're concerned.
Yeah, I've been around for a while, so that's the good news. The good news is I've been around a while here at IBM. The bad news is I've been around here for a while at IBM. So,
well, the good news is 40 is a good year, so we'll stick with that. So describe us, look, I gave a little bit of a lead in, but how would you describe the role that you hold within IBM in your own words?
In my own words, the way I would describe it is we are part of our software business at IBM and our cloud business. And obviously, one of the most significant investment trends that we see developing in the marketplace today is around AI. And whether you look at Gartner or Forrester or MIT Sloan, Business Boston Consulting Group, McKinsey, everyone has it a top investment area. We see clients put an enormous amount of additional investment and plans over the next several years into this whole space of AI. And so what our mission is, and what my mission is from a marketing perspective, is to help our clients begin and accelerate the journey to AI. And obviously, AI starts with your data. Data is the lifeblood of AI. And so we've created a prescriptive approach that we call the AI ladder that is designed to help clients sort of begin that journey. And as we look at our clients, we'll say between 4 and 8% of them have made any significant progress with AI already. Many of them happen to be IBM clients that we've been working with for a while. We've learned a lot. And so now we're on the mission to help more and more companies take advantage of the value of AI.
I've got to pause for just a minute. So I look at your background. I graduated electrical engineering. It looks like you graduated electrical engineering. Yes? University of Mass?
Yep, that is true. Computer and electrical engineering.
So, real quick for us, how do you go from a tech head to more of a marketing? You must have multiple talents.
Well, let's put it this way. I think I realized in college that I wasn't really going to be an engineer. I mean, that was really hard stuff, if I remember correctly. And I was an I was an intern at IBM my junior year and my senior year. And IBM ended up hiring me back into the same department that I was in. That back then was working with software vendors and people that built applications. And I became part of the technical staff there to help them, work with IBM, what technologies to use, help them with their architecture and all that. So it was like a pseudo technical job, which over the years kind of grew into market development and marketing. And one thing that's true about IBM, obviously being a technology company, is that the marketing people need to be very technical also, because we're selling some pretty complex technology and concepts like, in this case, artificial intelligence and data virtualization. You have to understand how that works and what clients can do with it. So I think as life went on, I evolved to where my sweet spot was, which was, I think, understanding the technology, understanding how clients can benefit from it, and then being able to, get that messaging together and drive the marketing around it, versus a straight technical track, which perhaps I might not have done so well in.
So it sounds like you've been really that sweet spot again, don't let me put words in your mouth, but it's around business development, market development, as you put it, in communicating the architecture or how to achieve success within that architecture, given the technical foundation. Something like that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, again, if you're going to sell, let's say, Watson Studio or Watson Natural Language Understanding, or data virtualization or data ops, if you're responsible for marketing that, you have to understand what it is, how it works, which gets you into a pretty heavy technical layer, right? Because customers that are going to want to buy from you and that are going to be interested in at least investigating you need to kind of understand the details of it. It's not like selling sneakers or coffee or something like that. So I think that's helped me out a good deal here at IBM, being more of a technical marketing who understands the products than perhaps just someone who does marketing communications or campaigns or something of that nature.
So do you live in New York? Is that where you're at right now?
I live in Connecticut, in Newtown, Connecticut, and I work out of New York. I'm actually in Austin, Texas right now, where the team is. So I travel a decent amount, but yeah, my home base is in Armonk in New York.
So you're a New Yorker then?
I am a New Yorker.
What's your football team?
The Denver Broncos.
What the hell? Now I'm completely confused.
All right, so here's how this works. So I was born in Boulder, Colorado.
Okay.
I lived there for 7 or 8 years, and my father is an avid Broncos fan. So I grew up, because of those two reasons, to be a Broncos fan. And I think I've missed maybe two or three football games in 20-something years. So
are you kidding me? So you go back every Sunday for that?
Well, I don't go. No, I got DirecTV.
Oh, so, all right. You're watching it. You got the live stream. All right. I thought you were talking about, hey, look, I'm a season ticket holder, and by God, I know people like that, by the way.
Yeah, no,
that's not you. All right.
In the early days, you had to go to a bar every Sunday because they had all, because there wasn't DirecTV, and then I ended up getting that. But yeah, so Broncos fan, living in Connecticut for the last God knows how long. Let's say, for argument's sake, more than 40 years, given our previous conversation, and working out in New York.
Nice. All right, I got it. So let's go back to marketing the ladder to AI. I mean, look, we're all talking about it. I think it is a simple, prescriptive approach, and we've talked about that on this podcast before. The foundation is collect, where you make data simple. You go up to organize, where it's about what it says about. It's about cleansing, integrating, cataloging. Then you move to analyze, where you're able to build. So you start building models, run models, deploy models, and then you get into the infuse space, where, in my mind, it's like using use cases with pre-built applications. But when I provide that to when I do my pitch, I really try to get down and make it real, because I love the simplicity, but it makes sense. People get it. And the reason I tie it back to like what I call the maturity curve, so I can figure out where clients are, where they need to get, where they start, current state, desired state. You tell me how to best market it, because I think a lot of clients I talk to say, hey, look, I get it, but man, you're oversimplifying. So how do you find the right balance?
Well, I think the whole thought starts with a great quote that was in an MIT Sloan pretty deep study that they did a couple of years ago, which is, and I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, but no matter how sophisticated your AI algorithms are, it's basically for naught unless you understand the data. In other words, the data preparation, the data, making your data ready for AI is perhaps the most difficult and the most important part of your AI investments, because garbage in, garbage out, right? And the whole notion of an AI model, whether it's machine learning, deep learning, whether it's a cognitive capability like text to speech or speech to text, it is a living thing. It continues to learn. It continues to generate and consume data. And you have to have an information architecture that is tuned for that kind of world. So when we think of the AI ladder, it all starts with this notion of modernizing your data estate for an AI multi-cloud world. And what that really means is almost every client we deal with have incredibly siloed sources of data. Some 80% of their data is siloed in different clouds, different data stores. Some of it is fast data from sensors. Some of it is structured, some's unstructured. Some of it's social data. They have hundreds, if not thousands, of sources of data. And that is the lifeblood of what makes AI deliver the outcomes that people want to get from it. So you have to make your data ready for AI. And most clients, if not all of them, do not have their data in a state today that is conducive to being successful with AI. So it all starts with that modernization effort. And that's what we mean by modernize. And to go one step further on that, there's two components to that. One is the ability to virtualize all that data. So if you get yourself into a situation where you have to move data around, in other words, replicate it, centralize it in some sort of data lake, move it up to a cloud environment, the worst thing you want to do is start taking data and ripping it away from its origin and its source that should be continuous, right? And make multiple copies of data. Because then you're setting up a very complex environment to maintain, very costly. So you want to be able to virtualize it all, let everything stay where it's at, regardless of what type of data it is, no matter what kind of source it is, and be able to virtualize all that data, right? And that is part of what we mean by making data simple and accessible. The second major component to it is this notion of data ops, which is just because you can get access to your data and you virtualize it all doesn't mean that it's quality. It doesn't mean it's the right data. It doesn't mean that you have 360 views of that data. It doesn't mean you're adhering to privacy and compliance, regulatory compliance issues around the data. There's a whole bunch of issues that come to making that data ready for business, making it a trusted foundation, if you will, right? And we find that some 80% of clients do not understand the data they need for their AI aspirations. And so this modernization effort sort of starts at that thought process. And that's what our Cloud Pak for Data is all about, is that foundational set of services to create a data environment that allows you to begin to climb that ladder to AI. And then from there, you begin to create new models, deploy AI applications like for customer service or for financial crimes or whatever it may be. So it's sort of a ladder that's sequential, but in some ways you can enter anywhere. So we do have customers that are starting right with a pre-built app like Watson Assistant to automate their customer service calls, but they find out very quickly that they're going to need some custom models, that they're generating more data, and then they quickly get into the issues of data and data quality. So we're pretty convinced after hundreds and hundreds of engagements around the AI ladder that it is a prescriptive approach, and in fact, we believe it's proven. And obviously, there's a deep level of architecture in each rung. There's products that are optimized for it. There's quite a bit that goes to the next stage here, but right now, many clients are just trying to get an idea of how do we even get started.
So Scott, I got it. I think you've described that prescription really well, but how do you the key is, I mean, like when I think marketing, I mean, one thing there's two parts, and I'm probably going to butcher this because I'm not a marketing person. Maybe I should be. It's intriguing to me, but it's like you've got to have the longer, deep message, but you've also got to have the shorter, high level message with meaning to get people to get intrigued and say, hey, I get what these guys are doing. I'm gonna call up my sales rep and we're gonna get this thing started. Is is that just it? The latter day AI, you feel like, hey, that's what we've done, and that triggers that initial call, or is there, how do you approach marketing? What is our marketing message outside of that, or is that it?
Yeah. So the AI ladder, the AI ladder is really three things to us. One is, as I said before, we believe it's a prescriptive model on beginning to accelerate your journey to AI. That's one thing. And it does go into different layers of depth. The second thing that it is, it's an organizing construct for our portfolio of offerings. And I will describe that in hopefully a little bit more detail as we get through this podcast. So it's not just a marketing message, there's actual real capabilities and products that implement those different layers in a very modular way. And then the third thing it's our sales model. It's how we engage clients. And so our entire sales force around the globe uses the AI ladder to begin conversations with clients and to explain to them how we can help be your partner to turn your AI aspirations into outcomes. And so the role of marketing in this is a couple of things. One is to get you interested to even talk to our sales team or our technical teams. So there's a layer of this which is, getting infused into AI, the buyers, which there's a bunch of different buyer segments and cohorts that make that up, and getting our message out that you ought to come at least understand how we can help you and what our vision is and what our differentiators are. So it's really about awareness and interest. From there, we drive people into a next level of depth where we get into the architectures and we get into the capabilities, like I referenced before, data ops and virtualization. Those aren't products, those are capabilities. They're architectural components, if you will. So we get to that next layer of an information architecture for AI. And then the third stage is obviously to create demand around the actual products that deliver those capabilities. And as we create pipeline, we create demand. That obviously engages the sales team. We create new leads for them. They go off, and we help them progress it through progression type tactics, but that's really in the hands of salespeople to take it to the end. And then the final piece of what we do is we take everything that we learn from what's happening in the marketplace and being an expert on how people buy what they want and what they're trying to do with these technologies. And we feed that back into product development and offering management, into sales. It's a continuous cycle of teams working together. So what you're seeing with the AI ladder is really the tip of the iceberg, because that decomposes down into depth into each rung of the ladder, which ultimately gets to a set of products that implement that. So we got to tell that whole story and do it in a way that we don't, you can't go out too quickly with a lot of depth, because then you lose people. You need to start with the big picture and then kind of work your way down.
Yeah, so I got it. So here's what I heard, and I'll kind of restate what Scott said and give a little bit of my own perspective here. One is it's three approaches. The AI ladder is the prescriptive model. We already talked about that: collect, organize, analyze, and fuse. It's an organizing construct. Think organizational structure, and I will, as a testament to that, I'll say that we are organized within data and AI around that AI ladder. I think it's the right thing. It's all about alignment. And speaking of alignment, then it's the number three. It helped dictate the sales model. And for our producer Megan, we need to get sales on here in the future, because the question I was going to ask you, and I know you're marketing, but it kind of ties into sales. Doesn't that make it difficult to sell the product though? There's a lot of that's a big, if you look at the Cloud Pak, which is our microservices architecture that puts that whole ladder in there and all the products therein, that means those sales guys, versus years ago where you knew this product, you knew it to the nth degree and could sell that product, they're selling solutions and they're selling across the portfolio. Isn't that difficult?
In some ways, it's difficult because you are, as you point out, You are selling a solution and a roadmap with a great degree of technical depth, really selling an architecture and an approach, right, or a methodology. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. But what counters that, I think, is the fact that you're no longer trying to sell, in our case, 30 to 40 individual siloed products that all have different unique capabilities to them, but don't really become unified with everything else. So we're moving from a world where we would salespeople would have to sell a whole bunch of different products to one, they're selling a solution that leads you to the same place. And that same place is Cloud Pak for Data with the Watson capabilities built into it. It becomes a simpler model, right? But that simpler model has more complexity to it. So I think it's somewhat of a trade-off.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, look, in history, over IBM's history, and I've been here a little while as well, and you have a lot of independent products that have crossover, et cetera, and that makes it difficult. Sometimes you're cross-selling or you have channel conflict just inherently to the products you have. With this strategy we have, and I've said this, and I would say this to my team, so I'm not exactly a homer here, but it's going to sound like it because I do believe that we have the best strategy today than we've ever had. And for those people that are listening, when you think of that AI ladder, if you want to look at products underneath it, and again, we talk about solutions and intentionally, as Scott just said. But if you look at the top, let's go top down of the ladder we just described, like the top rung would be Watson applications. Those are the pre-built use cases. Next layer would be, hey, you want to build your own machine learning models? So we got Watson Knowledge Catalog for prepare, Watson Studio to build, Watson Machine Learning to run, and Watson OpenScale to manage. All the Watson products to allow you to build, run, deploy, etc. That's all built on our database family and governance. And then the final rung of the ladder is that a Cloud Pak for Data, and that's a microservices architecture. But the beauty of it is we try to leave that out, and we try to do our best even on this podcast not to talk about product because it's all about solutions, it's all about technology, et cetera, as Scott said. So here's another question I have for you. And I got a lot, but you mentioned a lot about virtualizing data. I call that bringing analytics to the data. So clients can get up that ladder and get to AI quickly. I've said this before, I think, on the podcast, though I think you got to repeat yourself many times to have a concept sink in. And that is, a lot of clients I meet, I find that I'm talking about the ladder to AI and in the maturity curve, as I refer to it. And I won't repeat that here, but hopefully everybody understands that. You can go back in previous podcasts. But I find out where they are and where they're going. And I feel like a lot of times, though, I imagine this like I would walk off and I look over my shoulder and I find that they're again moving data. Now, it's all about cleaning the data, like you said. It's about getting that data estate in a format and in an arrangement that AI can take advantage of it. But I think a lot of clients that I see, they go back to the data and they do what they know. And what they know is, all right, I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. I'm going to use a lot of ETL. And sometimes you need to. Don't get me wrong. We got tools for that as well. And then they start moving data when I say, hey, that works. That works. Leave that there. We got virtualization technologies that are built in our microservices architecture that I just described. Look, don't waste your time there. Your ladder just got larger. It's going to take you longer to get up that ladder to AI. Do you see it the same way? Are you experiencing the same behavior?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a new concept. And frankly, the notion of virtualizing data has been around for some time. The problem in the past is it hasn't been fluid virtualization and it hasn't performed well enough. We believe we've fixed that. And kind of the way I think about it is this whole notion of a hybrid cloud democratizes the data, meaning that hybrid cloud starts to become the platform for where your data needs to be accessed, right? And obviously you can't be moving your data up into the clouds away from the source. In a hybrid cloud world, your clouds have to move to where your data is. And this technology essentially is allowing you to do that. So it is sort of a different concept. And where I think it comes to life for real customers is when they actually do a project, or they do some kind of testing of it, or they see a demo of Cloud Pak for Data, and you see how simple it is to go out and see your data sources, an Oracle database here, an Excel spreadsheet there, a sensor feed with event data there, DB2 warehouse over there, and you're able to create a virtualized image of the data out of that you want for your model. When you see it in action, and then you see it actually perform, I think clients then start to think differently about it. Because again, you could take your data and replicate it and move it around away from its source, and you can create an AI algorithm that feeds off of it. But what happens when the original data changes, right? And what happens when the AI model produces more data? Where does that data go? Does it go to which copy? Oh, it goes to both copies. Well, how many copies do you have? Well, let's put an exponential factor on that. And before you know it, you just created a disaster area of complexity. So we think data virtualization is a fundamental component of a real AI sort of enterprise, because you just can't be in this world where you're replicating and moving thousands of data sources all over the place. You need to keep the data at its origin, yet be able to make it simple and accessible and be able to use it in a fluid manner. And we think some of our technology that we've built with research and IBM is really starting to solve that problem in a unique way.
So your contention is that in the past, because the virtualization technology wasn't there, performance-wise or otherwise, that the clients may hear this and they may say, I got to go back to moving data. That's all. Virtualization is a good concept in theory, but in practice it doesn't work. I could buy that as well. And Frank, I do. I agree with that. We have solved that, and we have solved that over the last couple of years in various forms of our virtualization technology that actually uses some of the compute and storage at the source, so they work together in constellation, so that it solves that performance issue that you mentioned. So I agree with that. But there was one question. Where was I going to go with this?
By the way, I believe we have a study out somewhere on the website that it's some 500% faster to virtualize the data than it was compared to older technology. So the performance of it has been significantly ramped up. And it's not just because of the compute power, it's because of the architectural design and the approach that they took, which is pretty sophisticated. So we think that when customers see it, they love it. And we have some pretty significant projects going on with it. And we're very comfortable that that's the wave of the future. Yeah,
my last team spearheaded that with research. So it is amazing in terms of how they've streamlined the architecture and, again, use compute at the source to work together, etc. And to your point, I remember what I was going to say now. The real problem that I see is sometimes it's difficult. I mean, you mentioned it to start the podcast here, that it's all about data, and sometimes we can't get out of our own way. Like, I visited a client, and they said, "Look, I got 10 times the data that I need." And I said, "No, what do you mean by that? The more data you have, the better decisions." He said, "No, you don't understand. I got 10x redundant data that I need. We've been moving data for so many years that I don't even know where it is. I don't know, have one source of the data. I got major issues." So to your point, the last thing you want to do is continue to push new data only to get, turn your data lakes into data swamps and then get redundancy where you don't need it. So I get it. Our audience likes to get a little input around you personally. So I got a couple quick questions for you. First one is outside of the workplace, what do you do for fun?
I have 3 kids, 3 boys.
I got 3 girls. This is a problem. But keep going.
There you go. So obviously I spend a ton of time with them. My middle son plays D1 baseball, Jason. So I spend a lot of time doing that. I'm an avid football fan. I lost 30 pounds this year, so I work out all the time now, both weight training and running. So I used to do it all the time, then I stopped and got bigger, and then now I'm back into it. So I spend a lot of time doing that, and I guess that's all I do. I eat a lot. That's why I have to work.
Well, that's the good news. Yeah, that's why you got to work out, right? So any routine that you say, hey, this has been the key to my success, and because I work out as well, I use Insanity P90X. I kind of swap between that, then I go for a run. Anything that you use that you'd recommend?
In terms of exercising?
Yeah, what exercise routine? Yeah.
Well, I think it's just you do it no matter what. I mean, no excuses, right? Unless you're like half dead, get your ass out there. In fact, I just had, interesting enough, on Friday I had a tooth extracted that I had fractured.
Yep.
And they say you're not supposed to exercise for 7 days.
Yep.
So I didn't Friday, I didn't Saturday, I didn't Sunday, but I did it yesterday, and I'm going to do it today. The hell with it, right? You just got to do it. And
What if you get like 3 or 4 hours of sleep? Still exercise? You in on that?
yeah, I'm in on that. I mean, so I've been doing it. This year I've averaged probably 6 times a week, and I was for at a time doing. I would go and work out, like do weights for an hour and 15 minutes, and then go run 4 miles. I'm trying to better balance all that. So, but I try to either do weights or run every day except one day. That tends to be Thursday, and you just got to stick to it. And I think what you
It
find
tends to be
is
what day? What day do you take off? Did you say
it tends to be Thursday for some reason.
Thursday?
Thursday's the day off. It has
But
been
you got to plan
historically.
around that. So why is it for some reason? I would think that you would know.
I don't know. So you get to a point where
Need a
I guess
break?
the weekends come in, and that's probably when I do the most. And travel wise, like I'm in Austin now, I'll be going back Thursday, so it'll make it hard anyhow. And I don't know, it just tends to be on Thursdays. But I think the key is I do it 6 times a week. Sometimes it's 5, and I think you have to have the mentality that says I'm just going to do it. And the other thing I've learned with this whole thing is the first couple of months may be tough, but if you stick to it, then it becomes second nature, and you actually miss it. Like I missed it last weekend because I wasn't supposed to do it because of the tooth, but you get right back to it. As soon as you break that and you go a week or two, then you got to start all over again. So once you get into it, stick to it, and you'll feel better, you'll sleep better, you'll have more energy.
And
It's worth it.
You do weights and cardio every day?
Yeah. Now, the last couple times I don't do weights every day. I do weights. I do cardio almost every day, except for that, 6 days a week. And maybe I do 3 or 4 times, depends. I do weights, but then after the weights, I would also do cardio. What I'm trying to do now is just do 20 minutes of cardio after the weights, rather than like 4 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to, because I think I'm going to burn myself out.
Yeah, you need to be careful.
But you get into it, and
Oh,
that and
always-
drink a lot of water. And I think I've learned this too. By the way, someone brought it up at work. Actually, Elise did. And then you actually look into the stats. Some 80% of people don't hydrate themselves enough every day. They don't drink enough water. And just by drinking enough water all day and doing some exercise, it's like a whole new world. For me, it's a whole new world. I feel 10 times better than I used to, and have 10 times more energy. And it's just doing that. I still eat like terribly. I'm going to go have beef ribs tonight and, go crazy. But as long as you're exercising and drinking water, you'll be fine.
You know what? I will say this, and I think your reference to Elise Passarelli, who leads sales and data and AI. But I would say, and I've seen her do that pitch. She's big into water, but I am 100% behind that. In that, I used to get headaches and all different kinds of symptoms. And since then, I've been excessive around water. I don't know why. I think we get older and we just quit drinking water. I don't know what it is, or it's got to taste. It's got to have some kind of taste to it, or something where you don't drink. And since I've I started, and you get into a habit, right? Just like the exercising. Once you start drinking it, then you start drinking more of it. Then it becomes routine. But the more water you drink, the better I feel. And there's actually studies that show your brain on hydrated and non-hydrated. And I mean, it's enough to scare you. And I think, we've got a real epidemic.
It was in February that she talked about that in one of the Rob Thomas's meetings.
Yes.
And I remember thinking to myself, God, like I go the whole day without drinking water. Then I go home and and so she got it on my mind. And this was part when I started exercising too. So they did these at the same time. But I bet you even if I didn't exercise, I'd be feeling better, because I realized how chronically dehydrated I was. And I had those headaches too, and I had GERD, and a lot of that stuff has completely gone away from me. I can't remember the last time I've woken up in the middle of the night with a headache. And it's either because of the exercising or the water or both. But I think it's worth, sometimes you get so busy at work solving the world's AI problems that you don't take care of yourself. And for someone who's 40, as we pointed out earlier,
That's
You got to
right.
start doing that stuff. So.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, another question, quick question. How do you learn? Because what did stand out to me is that in marketing, I know I won't say this, but certainly not you. Some people seem to be maybe mailing it in or something. They're just doing the marketing part. But if you know the technology, you can be deadly. And obviously, you know the technology in depth. If you're not doing development, if you're not necessarily supporting the client every day, how do you get in and really learn those technologies? Because you reference deep learning, et cetera. How do you get it?
I read. Real example. I got up at 4:30 in the morning, got to the airport, flew down to Austin. So what's a 3.5 hour flight? So on that flight today, I read a McKinsey report on, I forgot what they called it, but something about scaling AI in the enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
I did a little bit of research on what a data lake is versus data fabric versus a data hub. And I ended up getting into Amazon has a website for AWS on data lakes and how they describe it, which is not Hadoop, by the way. And so I do a lot of Googling, and I have something on my mind, like what is, I'm just trying to think of an example. Like, I guess the data lake is a good example. So you just start thinking about this stuff or you see it referenced a lot. The best thing to do is go Google it and read about it. So I tend to do a lot of reading, and I also tend to try to I read every single client story or reference or sales note I can, because I find it fascinating how people really think about this and use it. So I think it's just a lot of having that curiosity and the passion to care about what you do, it drives you to learn more and more. So for me, that's reading and talking to people, and I've learned some stuff from you too, just on this call, right?
So
right.
let me finish with this. This is a quick game. It's just a bulleted game, and it's called underrated or overrated. So I'm going to give you a topic. You got to pick a side, right?
Okay.
You got to own it, and you fall over one side of the fence or the other. The first one is the cloud. Is it underrated or overrated?
Overrated.
Hybrid cloud.
Underrated.
AirPods.
Underrated.
We talked about that. You did have an AirPod problem though, but you still love them.
And if they don't come out with black soon or some other color besides white, then I'm going to give them overrated. But for now, underrated.
All right, Watson.
Underrated. People don't know what it is.
Yes, that's that. We got to work on that, right?
Yes.
We talked about that in one of my last podcasts. A double E degree, electrical engineering.
That is underrated, because if you don't know how to apply it, like me, then it just is a waste of drinking time at college.
Data science.
Underrated.
All right, marketing.
Underrated.
The New York subway.
That was an IQ test.
Yeah, I know. That was, but I do. You never know. I've been surprised with this game before, to be honest with you.
Underrated. And I would have, many years ago, I would have said overrated for the New York City subway, but I've grown to really love the subway there. And I don't even take cabs anymore, where I used to do it all the time. Once you get to know the subway and you know what you're doing, it's great. And I'd say it's underrated.
Broncos. Denver Broncos.
They are as far overrated as you can get this year. They're awful.
All right, Kansas City Chiefs, my team.
I would say they're underrated because of your quarterback there, Mahomes.
Mahomes.
He's magic. He's magical, and magical quarterbacks win Super Bowls.
Oh God, I just only hope we got a defense that'll make that come true.
Run
All
defense.
right. Thank you, Scott. Where can people reach more? I mean, is it best on LinkedIn? We'll put in the show notes. Where can people reach you?
It would be either LinkedIn, Twitter, or email. So, and I think LinkedIn and Twitter are SL Hebner, Hebner. So either of those two.
Okay. Fantastic. We'll put that in the show notes. Folks, thank you for listening. We greatly appreciate it. And as always, as I always say, please give us your feedback. Rate us on whatever flavor you're listening to this podcast in, but also send us any kind of information, comments, questions, concerns, suggestions for guests on almartintalksdata@gmail.com. I thank you so much. And until next time, I'll see you on the podcast. See you all.
Thanks for listening to the Making Data Simple podcast, where we make data fun. Be sure to visit IBMBigDataHub.com/podcast to access the show notes and uncover even more great episodes. Remember, the views expressed here are those of the host and its guests and do not necessarily represent the views of IBM. Until next time, over and out.